It's your friend Paula from Paula's Kitchen and More. And guess what? We're not cooking today. I have a beat up old wreath that hangs on my front door. It has been hanging in the hot desert sun and wind and dust and who knows what for many, many, many years. I went over to Michael's, actually back in January, believe it or not, and I bought some cool stuff to remake this wreath, but life got in the way and I never remade it. So I decided to remake it on camera with you. So first of all, like with all remodeling projects, we need to do some demo. I have to take this apart, and then once I do, I bought a whole bunch of really beautiful stuff at Michael's. I think it cost me $50 for all these things. But anyway, I'm excited to remake it for spring 2023. I hope you'll join me. Finally. Well, that was a mess. I have to clean this up, and then we're going to create something new. You may ask yourself, why is this wreath so important to me, and why would I want to remake it as opposed to just going to the craft store and buying a new one? Well, it's sentimental value. Dale's dad, Vern McKenzie, made this for me out of grapevines that grew up on Mackenzie's Point in Canada. So it is priceless to me, and I cannot even tell you how many years I've had it, probably 20, 25 years, and I just keep remaking it. And believe it or not, these grapevines just have survived this desert climate, which is kind of amazing. So anyway, and I love the oval shape of it. It's very unique. So let's talk about how I'm going to remake it. I have a bunch of kind of succulent looking things that I picked up. I love berries in a wreath, so I got some berries, and I got some just really cool, like this looks like sedum. I love this. And I love magnolias, so I got some magnolias, and we're gonna remake the wreath. But as far as the foundation, you always have to start, or at least I always start with the ribbon. I bought a ton of this ribbon years ago. It's, I can't even tell you how long, but it's the kind that has the wire in it. So I love that because you can shape it and it pretty much stays in shape, so I can make a bow out of it. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna wrap the wreath, and then I'm gonna make a bow, and we will then start putting all our greenery on there. So lady's best friend when you're making a wreath is a very cool piece of floral wire. Big fan of floral wire. So I keep it handy. In fact, we use it for so many things, and it literally cuts with scissors, which I love as well. So I'm just going to start kind of at the top of the wreath. By the way, disclaimer, I am not, I mean, I feel like I have some prowess in the kitchen, but I'm not necessarily any kind of a crafter, except an enthusiast. Let's just put it that way. So let me just, the cool thing about a grapevine wreath is it has a bazillion holes for you to put the wire through and just kind of hook it, and that actually works in my favor. So let me just get the ribbon started. And as you saw, this lasted years and years and years, and I actually struggled to take it apart because it was tricky. Tell you what, I'm gonna take a whole long length of this just so I don't have to bother with the long reel, and I will just wrap the wreath. Et voila. What do you think? A little messy, but we got the job done. Speaking of messy, I have to give props to my cameraman, lighting man, sound man, gaffer, goofball, and everything else, Dale, who is running around cleaning up after me. Alrighty, moving on. Next step. I'll see you in a sec. Full disclosure, my husband just said, I've never filmed a craft show before. Guess what? Neither have I. We're having to do a whole lot of cleanup. It's worse than Paula's kitchen. All right, I cut a whole bunch of the ribbon with a wire in it, and I'm gonna make a bow. So I learned this years ago, and I can't even remember where or when, but anyway, basically, where or when? There you go, it is. I just gather it up, kind of holding it in the middle, as you can see, and I just gathered it up until I have basically some loops, and I did it such that there are 8 loops. So I'm going to cut a little bit into them like so, and this allows you to position all the little loops in the bow. And then I have a piece of my floral wire. I'm just going to wrap those 2 cuts I just did like so, and then this is enough that we'll be able to attach it to the wreath when we're ready. So when you do this, you can then position the loops, and you have a lot of leeway to do that and kind of move them around and make them attractive. So we'll probably finish this on the wreath and kind of do the final positioning and so on. But basically, you make Christmas bows this same way. You kind of get the idea. You just do sort of play with the loops until you get a pleasing look. And because it's wire, it stays exactly where you put it. Then this is the piece that's left over from the wrapping, and I'm going to let this be kind of the tail on the bow when I put the wreath together. So we'll just set that aside and save it. Moment of truth. Let's actually put something on this wreath and see what happens, huh? I am back, and I've got all my raw materials laid out. I cut myself a couple of little pieces of the floral wire so I can grab them as needed. And I have an empty palette to work with. What I like to do with the wreath, it's totally personal preference, but I always like to kind of go up the left side and down across the bottom with my designs. I just think that's really pleasing and pretty. So I need to kind of start with a base, and I like to use something green as a base. So I bought a great big fern, and I'm just going to insert some of these fern leaves up the left-hand side of the wreath and then down across the bottom as the backdrop to all my florals. And again, the beauty of a grapevine wreath is oftentimes you just need to insert them in among the branches and they will stay. You can tell how long I had that wreath, and it stayed put together. I never lost anything off of it. So yeah, this is a great medium to work with, a grapevine wreath. And that'll work. Now, the next thing I like to do is I love berries. And the thing about these in the desert, I buy these berries, they kind of last. They're a little bit more hardy than just a silk flower. So I do tend to look for the berries. And the nice thing is this one has a little curve to it that I think is going to work beautifully going up the side of the wreath. And I'm going to put some over here as well, kind of carry on my design. And then I will put one across the bottom. That's a good one. No right and wrong way to make a wreath, honestly, but all right, this is not looking bad. So far so good. All right, next, my big anchor flowers. So I've got a couple, I've got actually 3 magnolias. I'm not sure I'm going to use all 3, but let's see. So I'm going to put, these look very real, I have to say. I think that's why you spend kind of a premium dollar when you go to Michael's, because the silk florals are so realistic these days. Notice I haven't used one piece of floral wire yet. I'm just basically inserting the stems in the branches. All right. I might do another one here. You kind of want your focal flower to really be in the face of the viewer, which is in this case, you know, the UPS guy that's coming to the door, or I should say Amazon. And then this one's sort of like a bud, so I think I'll put this one over here. All right, moving on. I know I'm going to have to finesse all this, but I don't want to keep you for days and days. So I saved my succulents. They're going to kind of go on the bottom of the wreath. And the reason Dale was just reminding me on the break, the reason I do this myself rather than buy a store-bought wreath is we have a very harsh environment between the heat and the sun beating on our front door. Anything I buy at the store, especially of delicate silks and dried flowers, simply does not last. But these are almost as hardy as the succulents they represent. And yeah, actually in the wind as well. So I love these because although they're a little on the expensive side, they do last a long time. Now, this is a very thick stem. I don't think I'm going to be able to put this in the wreath, so I'm going to grab myself a piece of the floral wire and I'm just going to anchor it through. Just wrap it around. Very easy to do. Now, I like these. Those are very deserty, and I sort of like this peach color as well. So let's put this by the magnolia and anchor that in place. Like so. All right, so these succulents also are quite realistic looking. I like these, and I also like that they're in pairs. They kind of coordinate with one another, and this one has a little bit of that peachy color that's in this one as well. So I'm gonna put these on the bottom of the wreath as well. In this case, the ribbon's getting in my way. I can't find a spot to poke through. There we go. Ooh, found a sweet spot for him. All right, so I have a couple more that I can use for filler, couple singles. Let's see, this definitely needs something right here. Let's see what we can do with this spindly looking fellow. All right, I need to anchor some things down, just check positioning, and I'll be back with you to wrap this up and put the bow on. That was more than a little difficult to try to do lying down, especially when you're going to be viewing the wreath standing up. So actually off camera, I did stand the wreath up and rearrange the flowers, and I just went and showed it to Dale, and he was pretty impressed. It came out quite beautiful, didn't it? And I did pull in one other succulent that I didn't think I was going to need, a kind of a bigger one, but actually I'm very pleased. It went kind of right in the place of honor there as you're walking up to the front door. So I also anchored things with a floral wire in a bunch of different spots because, as we told you, the wind is wicked around here and I don't want this thing falling apart. I have this is where it hangs, obviously, and I have my ribbon ready to go as well. So it is going to go right on the top here. I've got just a piece. Hello. I've got a piece of floral wire, and so I'm going to hook the ribbon in place and finish up the product. Now, I did cut these tails, and maybe when I put this on, I'm going to say I want the tails longer, but I have a ton of ribbon, as you saw. So let's see what we can do. I'll put the ribbon on, and then we'll do the final reveal. That didn't take long. All right, here is the final product, ladies and gentlemen. This is my new wreath for the front door that I think is going to last me another 5 years if I'm lucky. I'll tell you what, this is kind of in the category of normal life in Las Vegas. There's a lot more to this town than the Strip and downtown, as you well know. We have a lot of crafters and craft stores. We have craft shows. We have a Crafters Guild. I think we have 6 Michaels stores. I told you I bought these, all of my products here at Michaels. I think we have 5 Hobby Lobbies. We have a really nice Joann Fabrics. And every time I ever go in any of those stores, they are full of lady crafters, which warms my heart. There's kind of a hometown base to Las Vegas that you may not think about. Anyway, we are ready to put this on the door, and let me say thank you so much for sticking around with me on a very unusual Paula's Kitchen and More. First of its kind. It may be the last of its kind, I don't know, but I had fun making the wreath, and I hope you had fun watching me. We will see you soon. Bye everyone.